Hello and welcome to Panoramic Edition, where we discuss national, regional and international developments in depth. As part of the Kingdom of Bahrain government's keen interest to further consolidate international cooperation and innovation in the digital age, the International Telecommunications Union, ITU's Digital Skills Forum, was recently held in the Kingdom of Bahrain. It was organized by the Telecommunications Regulatory Authority in cooperation with the International Telecommunication Union, under the theme, Developing Skills for Digital Transformation. The three-day forum was attended by ministers, heads of authorities from ITU member states, and experts from the telecommunications and IT sectors, in which they discussed various topics, including developing skills for digital transformation, closing the digital divide, the impact of emerging technologies, the shift to a digital economy, environmental sustainability, and promoting safe online practices. To talk more about that, we are pleased to be joined here in the studio by the Telecommunications Regulatory Authority's General Director, Mr. Philip Marnick.
The Telecommunication Union's Digital Skills Forum is one of the most important global events in the telecommunications sector. This prestigious event aims to bridge digital skills gaps around the world, featuring in-person and remote sessions in addition to panel discussions on developing skills for digital transformation. The forum brings together industry leaders, experts, policymakers, and training providers from around the world to participate in panel discussions covering topics including digital transformation, industry perspectives on skills gaps, bridging the digital divide, and national digital skills frameworks for policymakers. Also announced during the forum is the Capacity Development for Digital Transformation Initiative, which is a tripartite partnership between the International Telecommunication Union, the United Nations Development Programme, and the European Union, which aims to promote digital literacy and create a digitally competent society so that the world continues to equip individuals with the skills to succeed and thrive in the digital era.
Welcome back. We are pleased to be joined here in the studio by Telecommunications Regulatory Authority, TRA's General Director, Mr. Philip Marnick. Thank you very much for being with us and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Sir, first, there's so much to talk about and to settle on, but we'll start off with the International Telecommunication Union's Digital Skills Forum, which is one of the vital events that was held this year in the Kingdom of Bahrain. What can you tell us about the objectives and why was this event so important?
So we held the event because actually the world is going continuously digital. Everything we do now is online. And what we want to make sure is that everybody has the skills to be able to participate in society as society changes. The ITU has about 193 member countries from around the world. Everyone's at different stages of development. Bahrain is actually one of the leaders in digital. We come in the top 10 in the world of these sort of things. But we've got lots of other countries who actually don't have the skills that we have here today. And the idea is to try and work and find ways in which they can be helped. How do we make sure that everyone develops skills? Here in Bahrain, young kids coming out of school and university, the world of the future is going to be very different than the world of today. How do we make sure that they have the skills to be able to participate? What can we learn from others? How can we work with universities and other people to help people develop skills? But importantly, in everyday life, how can people work together? So the forum was there to enable people, experts from different parts of the world, to share views, share understanding, share knowledge, and find ways in which we can put new initiatives in place to help everyone develop the skills for the future.
Right. Skills being here the key word. There are a lot of topics that were addressed during the event. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why were these specific topics chosen?
So one of the key topics was AI. People get very worried. AI is going to take their jobs away. AI is going to help you. So one of the things we were looking at was what are the new jobs that AI will enable? And if AI is going to bring along, what skills will people need to interact with AI, to be able to use AI, to be able to develop AI? So AI was very important. The other skills were all about connectivity. What's the new ways of doing finance? What's the ways of doing business? How do those sort of things help? And so we tried to choose skills that will be useful today, but also fundamentally useful tomorrow. How do we make sure that tomorrow we understand what will happen, which is people just guess and then try and figure out what's going to happen. But how can we figure out what's going to happen tomorrow and therefore see if we can put the training programs in place? So a lot of the capabilities were what's going to happen in training, what's the new technologies, if these technologies come along, what impact will they have, how will people change, how will different parts of the world change and how will it help? So for example, some of the discussion was even about agriculture, what's going to happen there, how do you make those things different?
Right. When you chose those topics, did they have to pertain to the region or to the area, or is it like a general concept?
They were general because actually attending, well, there was lots of countries from Africa, there was people from Europe and people from Latin America as well. So actually it was a global conference.
Beautiful.
So we were looking to see not just what happens here in Bahrain and what happens in the region, but also what happens in different parts of the world and what we can do there. I've always found that actually different parts of the world have different challenges. While we're quite advanced here, and we're more advanced in some technologies than Europe's day or America, people in Africa have different ways of doing things, but they have different challenges. And therefore, because they have constraints in finance or other things, they find different ways of doing it. And we can learn then from them, from their ways of doing it, and say, goodness, why did they do that? What can we learn? How can we do it? So for us, the skills are from everywhere in the world, the development, the issues were from everywhere. So we look at different ways and that we can all look together.
Using AI and using these skills, do you feel that it has come to a new benchmark of how to deal with future problems or challenges that might come using these skills?
Yes. So AI exists today, and people think that new things will come in the future, which of course they will. But actually we're starting to see AI being developed. For example, if you go on a website and try and choose a new tariff, it might be AI sitting in the back doing machine learning to try and figure out what's the optimum one for you. So it sits there today. But in the future, people worry about different things where jobs will be doing different ways of doing it. So for us, we've got to try and understand what AI can do, what it can't do, what it's likely to do, and then see how you build AI into some of the new ways of learning. How can you get AI to help you? So people use ChatGPT and it comes up with the answer. How do we make sure people realize sometimes that answer is wrong and therefore make sure it's doing it? Exactly. And do this sort of thing. So yes, AI was one of the key issues for us in the new world. And it is it going to take some people's jobs? It's going to change the jobs and redefine them. Is it going to help other people do things? Yes, it is. I attended another ITU event earlier in the year. It was called AI for Good. And one of the things they said there was that effectively AI won't really replace everybody, because obviously it can't. But what it do, it might give us the ability to do things better. It will give us like superpowers to enable to participate and do things.
Absolutely. I also, it's interesting because I've had this discussion several times, and for me, it sets the bar a little bit higher. If you are going to do the same job, you're going to have to be able to use these technologies for the good, and it's a good thing to have that available, that kind of education. Well, what can you tell us about the speakers that were at the forum? There was a big uproar about how many speakers there were going to be, and all of them were top-notch speakers. Tell us a little bit about them and how they felt after this.
So we had speakers from all around the world. We had speakers who came from the west coast of America who were talking about how development's taking place in Stanford University and other places and what's the technologies going on. We had speakers who came from China who were talking about what developments are there. We had speakers from Europe and Africa. So the speakers were actually either people from education who were talking about new developments, speakers from the telecommunications and technologies industries talking about new technologies, talking about emerging technologies, speakers who'd worked on new programs. For example, Cisco was there talking about the new way of which they've been working with lots of countries to help them develop the new technologies that are coming along. We had speakers from everywhere. And the idea was, because all the speakers came, they all brought different expertise. We leveraged their expertise to actually get and then challenge and discuss and debate. The way the thing took place was there was actually some people who give keynote addresses, but most of it was panel discussion. So you'd have the speakers on the stage, give their overview of what was happening in their particular area, and then challenge them and see what was going on and why it was happening. So the speakers came, as I said, from universities, people came from large industries, people came from governmental institutions, people came from training, and so it was all these people helping everybody understand what tomorrow might look like, understand what we can do, but importantly, understanding what they tried and what they tested and what they'd learned from it, and therefore other people can gain the benefit from that as well.
The merging of these specialties together gives a whole new concept to digital skills as well. Why is it important to have all of the fields be a part of the making of these skills?
Because, to be honest, the skills we need tomorrow are actually a bit different than some of the ones we have today. Yeah. Obviously, you need to enhance it. And you need to look at it from different angles. If you don't look at it from different angles and different perspectives, you'll just be a bit stuck. We'll just continue doing what we've always done. We've looked at it. So you get some people who can come with different views from different positions. And by looking at all of those, you can come up with a better solution going forward. Is everyone right and everyone wrong? Possibly not. But actually, then we can build on what everyone's saying and understand and take a view and see what's happened.
These kind of forums, these platforms and everything are capable, or we're capable of having them because of the support of a lot of people. And preliminarily, or mainly, we have the support of the Bahraini government that provides to hosting these very vital events to the future. How do you value that kind of support?
It's phenomenal. Without the support of the government, we wouldn't be able to do most of the things we do here. Everything we do, we work across the government or different ministries. We cross different educational institutes and different places and some of the companies. So working together to get the government support, to get them the guidance and help and pushing it forward is really, really important. And the government set its objectives in both the NTP for telecom systems, but also in the Vision 2030. And that helps us understand where we want to push Bahraini society, how we can do that, how we can help develop everyone here in Bahrain to participate in the future, not just today. And that helps certainly in skills, because that's the development programs that people need.
When I ask this question to my guest, evaluating the support of the government, what we actually want to pinpoint is the support meant as in the things that are provided to make something available, capable, the resources that are there, the platforms, the distinguished speakers, everybody that is available and is supported by the government. The government actually gives you that pathway to be able to attain these goals. So can you tell us a bit more about how these cooperations happen, or what happened to get this forum started?
So in this particular forum, obviously we needed it was quite a lot of support from quite a lot of government agencies and ministries. So for ourselves, both the TRA, the Ministry of Transport was involved, the Ministry of Interior was involved. We had discussions with the Ministry of Education. We obviously had discussions with the Ministry of Information in regards to television and other things and journalism. So we worked with that. We also worked with the PMO to make sure that everything was happening to help everyone to go forward. And actually, because we were doing an event with the ITU, we also had an agreement. So the agreement then, we were working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the LLOC and everyone else. So to actually make one of these happen, it requires a lot of cross-government support and a lot of cross-government information and help with everything we try and do in those sort of areas. And then the practicalities of it, people arriving at airports, enabling us to get visas for people who've come, getting people transported, making sure the hotels and everything else are there to support it.
Because also all of these skills, I mean, or all of these things also help in shortening time, having people having more of an ease of mind, going, doing these procedures from home and having them available. Now, one thing that the forum really proved was the number of participants that can be all in one place at the same time. So how do you value that vast participation in the forum, which include participants responsible for digital skills, capacity development, all the ministries that were also there, regulatory agencies, there were telecommunication companies, representatives from international, from regional organizations. There are so many people there. What does it mean that so many people come together to make such a successful one?
I think there's the formal bits when people come together and actually engage in debate inside the hall. But actually people coming together means that people have side conversations a lot of the time outside. This event had people both there in the forum, but also online. So when you're online, you can participate and ask some questions and do things, but when you're actually in the room at these sort of events, you can talk to people. You can talk to people over coffee. We have evening receptions, again, people can talk together. People can actually start to build relationships, and those relationships help people as they develop skills for the future. So for example, we had bilateral meetings with some other countries, and we were talking about things like online safety. We were talking about how their markets were developing, and therefore we looked to see how we collaborate, how we learn and how we help. So for us, we worked with some other countries. So for example, we had good discussions with Georgians, people from Tanzania. We had people from different countries around the world talking to us to enable us to actually engage and doing it. And for all of that, it meant we were not only able to get people in the room, talking, participating in the formal forum, but outside of it and doing things at the sides to enable us to develop new capabilities and stuff.
When we talk about the target audience of the forum, who would you
The target
say?
audience of the forum was actually policymakers. It was the people who actually do education, the people who actually do training. But they were the main participants, and they were the people who we wanted to talk to enable it. But apart from that, we then need to understand who's the recipients of all this, who actually gets trained. It's great talking to the people, but you need to recognise that actually someone turns up and does some training, whether it's people later in their life when they need to be trained and developed as part of their work, or whether it's people at school and university who need to be trained. So we need to make sure that whatever we're talking about is relevant for them. One of the statistics that came up, I think, was that people entering primary school today, 65% of the jobs they will do in the future don't exist today. So how do we make sure that people have generic skills, the skills to take part in a digital technology, the skills to take part in a digital society, and actually when things are changing so fast, from what they will do and the outcome of that will be different than we thought people were doing today. And that's a continuum we need to learn. I think the other key thing for me, when you're talking about all of the talking about training, is that in the digital world, it's often the young who actually are more active than the parents. In fact, parents worry about what the young do, so we need to try and figure ways of doing that. But this means that actually when we talk about training, it's no longer just teacher to pupil, teacher to student, but it actually the students helping the teachers understand what's happening so that actually they can work together to develop the new capabilities for the future.
Why certain things are important, why they're done this way, because in their point of view, they understand differently than teachers or parents, as you said.
Exactly.
Another thing that's going on in a recent published statement, you affirmed that as one of the 193 member states of the ITU, Bahrain supports the ITU's ambition to ensure everyone has access to meaningful connectivity and can take part in the digital economy. What can you tell us about the importance of the outcomes?
To be honest, if you want to take part in anything to do with digital, you need connectivity. Bahrain today, we have connectivity almost everywhere. We're sort of unbelievably leading. We have 100% coverage of 5G. We have fibre almost everywhere else. 100% of Bahrainis are accessing the internet. If you go to some other countries, their infrastructure is very limited. They don't have the levels of connectivity. They don't have the skills to participate. And actually, that's what we're trying to work with others to do. How do they deploy the technologies to enable them to get everybody to able to use and access the internet in a way that's the internet of today and tomorrow, not just I can see the odd web page here and there. And for lots of countries, that's still a challenge. Then it's actually people being able to participate and use the internet and use services and use connectivity. And part of this conference is how do we help people do that? So whilst here, everybody can use it, and we're looking at what the future looks like. In lots of places, they're saying, how can I catch up? How can I make sure that even if you want to do healthcare, you can actually go and do digital online healthcare. You can actually access it. In lots of places, you can't do that. So we've been working away, not just in part of the ITU and its programs to help developments and provide infrastructure and help people develop infrastructure, but also working with other countries about how they can help learn from us, how they can develop the skills to do, how they can ensure their citizens can all use and access the internet and then use the services. And I think that's the challenge. We then have the challenge of, once we've got all the people using it, how do we actually make sure that they continue to be safe when they're using things online?
Addressing their fears as well.
Their fears as well. And we have two levels of fears. One is the fears of the people who participate, and one is the fears of the people who think about the people who participate. There's two bits of it. So for us, we've been doing a lot of work on online safety. How do we keep people safe? How do we work with all the police agencies and others about all the nasty bits? But actually, how do we people think themselves when they're going online to make it use? And I think part of the skills for the digital future is that sort of thing, as well as the skills for new jobs and new capabilities.
The reality is that in order to have such a successful entity that can make so many skills available to everybody is to have awareness as well.
Yes.
And a big part of the job that you do is spreading awareness and making sure people use it safely. How do you go about spreading that awareness? Why is it important? For whom is it important?
So we do it in two ways. Well, actually more than two ways, but mostly two. We do information, where we're putting out information constantly about doing this sort of thing and that.
Yeah.
We've been going into universities and doing train the trainer, and actually working with some of the sort of influencers to persuade their friends to do it.
Right.
We've been doing stuff with parents to try and get to parents, to try and tell parents about the tools that people can use, but actually also to tell them about what people do online and why they should or shouldn't worry about it and how to interact with their children and young people about to do it. We've worked with the Ministry of Education about how do we get things into colleges and schools and everywhere else. And we're obviously working with the sort of the Ministry of Interior and others about how we make sure that we're getting all the right information and the messages and anything that's a crime that they can deal with and do properly. We've also been doing some stuff about fraud, where people have been not quite sure whether they should use the OTP or not.
Okay.
People keep their information very, very safe when it's
Yes.
physically. When people go online, they sometimes think it's a bit easier. So we want to make sure that people are aware that when you're online, it's like keeping your money in the bank and in the safe.
Yeah.
Think about it. And if you get OTPs, make sure they actually are for you from somewhere, as opposed to someone wanting to do something naughty with you. So for us, it's doing information and in a way that encourages and entertains people and makes people aware, as opposed to just naughty, naughty, please don't do it.
Yeah, yeah. And these safety measures are in place in order to give the user that feeling of doing your work or completing a transaction easily at home without having that fear of my information being spread everywhere.
They are, and we've got laws to protect it. We also work with the platforms to actually make sure that the tools they have actually work for us. So, for example, part of my team engaged with other GCC countries across on the west coast of America, where they talk to the big internet platforms about the safety tools that they put in place and how we can make sure that they're available, but then that people know how to use them.
Yeah. Digital skills and the number of digital skills that we can talk about is so big because of the different fields. I mean, we talked a little bit before, and I'm in healthcare, I'm in media. A lot of people, you talked about people that came that are in education. So the skills they're being taught, the basics are the same, but the use of them is different depending on the field.
Very much so.
How do you see the future of these skills? Do you plan on augmenting the pool of them? What do you plan in the future when it comes to the different fields?
I think the future will always be more advanced than we are today. You take healthcare, as you mentioned, you know, we're constantly looking at new ways in which technology can help healthcare. How can AI help people diagnose things better? How can it do more research? Which means, therefore, we need people with skills in AI to be able to use it, but we also need the healthcare professionals to understand AI so they can help the people developing AI make sure it's actually relevant for their field.
Absolutely.
We've then got the nice simple things where people they've got watches and other things which are monitor their health. How do we make sure that those things in a society, the health professionals understand what the capabilities are, but people understand not to get too worried when they're using it and how it's going to that way? How do we make sure that actually when we are looking at industries, they know what technology can help them with and see how they're developed and how we can do the infrastructure? We've been doing some work looking at digitization of industry. And that means actually having workshops with people talking about where technology is developing and then seeing how it can be used. Thinking about what industry is doing and then looking to see whether the technology can help and assist them. So both sides know the story. So for us, it's convening people together to see what they can do. I think as we look towards the future with skills, we've been working with Tem Keen and others that are looking at what skills do people need. How do you therefore make sure that the programs they have think about the future skills that people are doing? And I think there's a lot of effort going into that here in Bahrain, because Bahrain's actually looking at what the future looks like. How do I make sure that we've got the capabilities to all the people doing it?
Right. And when we look at or talk about the complexity of these skills, and as you said, the workshops that are coming, everything that's going on, Bahrain does have the infrastructure to support anything that's coming up.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
And not only the infrastructure, the ambition to be able to do it as well, and the people with the skills to be able to play.
Absolutely. How do you value this constant development that is witnessed by the digital transformation in various aspects, specifically in the Kingdom of Bahrain?
Personally, I really enjoy technology, cybercrime.
Yes.
I think if we look at it here, we've very clearly set out a vision. We've very clearly set out the technology capabilities to do that, and we've got programs and plans across everywhere to try and see how we can make it work. So we know where things are going. Bahrain is unbelievably committed to making sure that it can reach the future and achieve its vision. Programs are in place, people are monitoring the programs, people are looking at it. And not only that, it's joined up. We've actually got the universities looking at the future. We've got the technologist companies looking at the future. We've got the policy in place that enables people to develop the technologies of the future here. And we just think about it and see how we can get going.
Yeah. People always say the future is coming. The future is here.
The future is here.
It's been coming for a while.
Exactly.
It's here.
But it'll always get different and better.
Exactly. And
you need to be flexible.
Need to embrace it as well.
Exactly.
And accept it and be positive about all of the positive things that technology, AI, everything can do for you at home, at work, anywhere. And I think having that kind of awareness that the uses of it are positive more than they are negative, and the thing behind it is what are your goals, and then learn how to use AI or these skills, and you'll have the positive results that you seek.
I agree, but I think you also need to realize that what you think will happen may not, and therefore you need to be flexible to actually make sure that you can not say it's definitely going to be this, but actually say, oh, it's changed a bit. How do I actually change what I'm doing to make it?
Exactly.
It's variable. And we need the same with policy. So one of the sessions at this was, how do you set policy for the future? And some countries say, oh, you do this exactly. And you sit there thinking, well, actually, if you do that and it goes there, then you've stopped it. So how do you enable and facilitate and encourage innovation? In a telecoms
if you limit it, you can't.
If you limit it, you can't. In the telecoms field, we believe absolutely in competition. How do we make sure competition happens? How do we give the flexibility to enable the market to go in the way the market's going, but actually make sure the market's still supportive of society? And that's really important.
Exactly. A big part of AI skills and in all fields are statistics. And statistics always teach us something or something else about the future, about the past. And AI really enables us to get real feedback of statistics that have been gathered and so on. What can you tell me about how important are statistics in developing digital skills?
To be honest, statistics are key, aren't they? It's just, you know, if you don't understand and you can't measure, you won't know what's happening and you won't know what's going on. So for us, looking at what's happened, what has been the result of this policy? What has been the result of this action? Where is development taking place? Is it really taking place there? How do you measure it? How do you see what's going on? We publish lots of information about the telecoms market and the digital markets here in Bahrain. That tells us the vision of, so what's happened? We tried this, but that happened. So therefore you can actually react and do something about it. If you don't have the statistics and the information, you get a bit stuck. It's like being blindfolded and then saying, I have to go over here. The statistics take the blindfolds off and enable you to have a perspective of what's happening and how it might happen.
Right. No, not just that it might be right or wrong, but maybe prioritize stuff as well. So I'm a very big advocate of statistics and using them in everything. Bahrain's statistics, Bahrain's 6th National Telecommunications Plan 2023-2026 won the United Nations 2024 World Summit on the Information Society, WSIS, the prize, recognizing its initiatives to drive innovation in the telecommunications and IT sector, develop digital skills, and align with Bahrain's Vision 2030 and the 2023-2026 ICT Strategic Plan. What can you tell us about why were the efforts to get this prize so important?
So actually getting the prize is less important. What's really important is actually having a plan that supports all the things you outlined. For us, we live in a world where competition drives most of the things. We live in a world which is continuously innovating. So unless we've got plans in place to help us and support innovation, as opposed to decide where it goes, we'll be stuck. We need to make sure that actually we're joined up across both ICT and technology and telecommunications. So again, it was part of it. We also need to make sure that actually we understood the vision and therefore the telecommunications placed in that way. And because we had a plan that actually delivered this and could be very clearly seen to be doing so, That's why we won the prize.
Yes.
So our aim is actually making a plan that's suitable for Bahrain. And then because we've got that sort of plan and got the capabilities and worked together between ourselves, Ministry of Transport and everyone else to be able to get there, actually enabled us to win a prize because we had a plan that worked.
Acknowledgement and incentive.
Correct. Our ambition is not to win the prize. Our
Yes.
ambition is to have something that actually enables Bahrain to be successful. And because we've got it, we actually win.
Absolutely, and having that prize not only is an incentive, but also gives you that feel of wanting to do more for the future because of the success of your project.
Correct, and also it shows that Bahrain is recognised as a leader in these sort of fields, and I think that's important as well. Because once you're seen as being a leader in the sort of field, people will then want to come and talk to you, want to engage with you. And the more people we engage with, the more we'll learn, the more we'll understand, and the more we'll develop ourselves. And so from ourselves, we can go from strength to strength. Today, even if you're sort of one of the leaders, you want to be one of the leaders tomorrow. You can't sit back and wait. And therefore, you need to continuously make sure you're evolving and developing, which is why we think innovation and competition are key for the future.
Right. Mr. Marnick, what are the main recommendations and outcomes of the forum, and how do you make sure that they're actually implemented?
I think the main recommendations were to continue to work to develop skills. And by doing that, by actually enabling cross-governmental learning from different parts of the world to others, help and support. How do we put effort into supporting some of the more least developed countries and actually get them to the same level as ourselves to do that? So a lot of the things were there. One of the other things was looking particularly at AI to make sure that actually people recognise the skills you needed to be able to participate in them, what they were, and how you develop those skills. And we looked at the options. And the same with new and emerging technologies. Not to be worried by them, but actually develop the skills. I think one of the other key characteristics, as I mentioned before, is that the jobs of the future are different than the jobs of today. So how do you then make sure that people not only learn skills now, but continuous develop. So one of the main recommendations, the outcome was the continuous development of people, putting people in a position where they want to continue to learn, they want to continue to develop their skills. I think I said at the closing speech, of all the people in the audience, if 65% of the jobs that people do entering school today are not there tomorrow, that means all of the people in the audience, their jobs they're doing will have changed. So if they want to continue doing something, they need to be the ones that continue to develop. I think the other recommendation is remember that we can learn from the young and the people who are new innovators as opposed to sitting thinking we're the only people who know and they'll learn from us.
Right.
And actually if you get those, you'll be able to continue, helpfully develop yourself. So I think those are the key things for us. Then how do you know you're doing it? To your point, statistics, measure, understand, see, make sure the outcomes are what you're seeing. And if the outcomes aren't going in the direction you think, then see how you need to tweak and change to make sure they are. Right. So that's the thing for us.
In the speech also at the forum, you mentioned that it is needed to be open, that you need to be open to learning from young ones, as everyone needs to be digitally literate. Is there like a certain baseline where you would say that, okay, at this point now you have to change the way you think, you cannot always limit your children or your youth, you need to change the way you roll and just get that mutual kind of... I
don't think there is, because actually I think it's continuous.
Yeah.
As you said, everything is continuous to evolve. Everything's developing. We need to make sure we can do it. We're on television. Television used to be really simple. You used to be able to press the button and television came on. Now television is not just broadcast online, but it's on YouTube, it's online, it's there. You can watch the program wherever you want to. Yeah. And actually people need the skills just to do that. So the skill from just doing something straightforward, just switching with a remote control, to something of now hunting and finding and doing, watching it on your mobile, watching everything else, those are new skills developed. We need that. We've seen here, for example, banking in Bahrain. We do a lot of digital banking. People use Benefit, they use other things. Yeah. Again, that means people need to be able to use and be confident to use those skills and understand the risks those things go. So those are the things, even at the basic level of development and doing it. I think children can help the elderly understand because actually they're doing it all the time. And some people might do it. So I think the thing we need to think about in the future with digital skills is that you can have the basic skills today. It's a matter of continuing to learn and understand as technology evolves all the time, what you need to be able to do to be able to use them will continuously change to it. And then for work and everything else, obviously training needs to be take part on the job doing, not just as you come out from university with a skill, but actually continuing to evolve and develop, because whatever will happen in 2 years' time will be different than happened today, and see how you can get there.
Well, from your point of view, how do you see the future of digital transformation on a local level? I mean, Bahrain, the GCC, the region.
I think, to be honest, we are actually leading in some of this stuff, so it's quite good. I think we'll continue to see digital thing. We'll see, people talked about cars, which were self-driving and everything else. They've sort of come, they don't quite get there. People say it'll be tomorrow and the day after, but it'll be sometime in the future. But we're seeing those sort of things, and people couldn't expect that sort of happen. But I think we'll see more and more of industry as it becomes more wireless enabled, more wireless devices are used in things. I've seen one of the things that people have always talked about, IoT is always about to turn up. But actually, if you look in your home, people have Alexa or they have Google systems or anything else. They have more digital systems that are helping them do things. They no longer get recipes from recipe books, but they get recipes from online, and people watch Instagram. It's those sort of things they're going to continue to do and develop. Industry itself is going to become more and more digital enabled. We'll see more AI coming inside things. I think if we think AI is going to be a big thing, it's going to happen in one day, it's not. It's going to be things that are suddenly going to develop and things, and you won't notice it's happened. It will just be around. And those are the things that are going to happen. And that's what we need to be comfortable with as these things change.
I mean, a lot of people, when they talk about change and the future, they talk about nostalgia and how things were. They were a certain way, but now they're easier because of technologies, and they're different, All right, before we end today's show, what can you tell us about the TRA's upcoming plans and the future projects that we can look forward to?
So the TRA's, one of the TRA's job is to ensure the telecommunications market works well. It's to make sure that you can go into a shop and buy a service and be comfortable with it. If you can actually get the right price for things. So we're taking efforts to try and do that. We're also been looking at 6G technology for mobile. So we've got 5G, what's going to happen with 6G? We've looked at the fibre rollout to make sure fibre gets to everywhere. And we want a country where no matter where you are, you can have access to fibre and the super fast infrastructure. So for us, it's been looking at the new technologies to see how we develop. It's making sure Bahrain continues to be connected, so we've got good international connectivity. But for consumers, we're looking at the prices you pay and the service. We've done some undertakings with the operators about that if you don't get the good service, you've got the ability to walk away. If your price is going to go increase, you've got the ability to go and change your tariff and go somewhere else. We're now looking to see in those sort of markets, is the market delivering the right sort of services for everybody? Is it delivering the right prices? Is competition working? And that's what we're continuing to do. But we're looking at the future, making sure we've got new fibre technologies, making sure wireless works for everything, make sure we can take advantage of the new digital revolutions that are coming, and make sure, as with 5G, we become one of the leaders in 6G as well as 5G.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Marnick, for being with us and for explaining everything about this. We look forward to the next IT reform and all of the skills that will come in with it. Is there anything that you'd like to add at the end of the show?
No, just thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'd also like to thank you, dear viewers, for watching, and we'll see you next week in another episode of Panoramic Edition.